Before we start this podcast, we just want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Amphibipod, who now sponsor the show. Keep listening to hear this week's exclusive discount code for all your 3D printed reptile needs.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Herping Hour podcast. This is episode 9, Rescue and Rehome. We have the amazing Jelly Exotics on, who run a rescue and rehabilitate reptiles.
Woo! Woo! Tell us a bit about yourselves and what got you into reptiles.
Well, for me, I just got bored of fluffy things. So I started with rodents like rats and things, and then I saw a leopard gecko for the first time and thought, it's so cute, isn't it? They are cute. And then I started with a leopard gecko and it just grew from there. And then I met Alex and it got even worse. I'm sorry.
The enabler.
For me, I've been probably obsessed with reptiles since I was little. Like nearly everyone in the hobby. I think Steve Owen played a big part. I think everyone could say that. A lot of people probably hate him, but I don't think anyone actually hates him. Why would you say that? I don't know. And I don't know. I've just been obsessed since I was little, and I think I begged my mom for a reptile for most of my childhood until she gave in, and I got a little milk snake. And since then, I've kind of just been obsessed. I don't think I've ever been without a reptile. And then when I moved out, that was a bad thing. That was a bad thing. Since I moved out, I've just been able to take them in. And I've never really, I think there's only 2 of my animals that I've bought. Most of them have been rehomes because I just always see them and I'm just like, oh, they need me. And I end up with many reptiles. Yeah, I have a problem.
We all have a problem.
Don't we all?
I started off with mammals, and I've all my small fairies and stuff, loads of rats. I had like a mischief of 14 at one point.
Yeah.
Like they had an entire bedroom to themselves and they just roam about. Like they had a kitchen in there that they didn't even use, or just left it open in case they wanted to go in. And Ace was like, well, I've got these reptiles here. And I was like, I want these reptiles too. And that was it then.
Mine was hamsters and guinea pigs.
Actually, no, to be fair, I did have a hamster as a child. But they're evil. I don't know why people sell them as first pets.
Yeah.
Oh,
very temperamental. Like,
yeah, they are
nippy.
very, very temperamental.
What inspired you to become a rescue and a rehoming service?
To be honest, I don't really know. It's probably a very controversial way into it, I suppose. I actually started with my own animals that I just took on. Like I said, I think I've only got like two of my animals that I've bought, and like one from a pet shop and I got one from a breeder later on. But I just kind of take on animals that I think need me. And I think the idea for a rescue started with, I started an Instagram page basically, and it was just a blog. It was only designed to be a blog. I never planned to take on rescue animals. And I used to follow a foster cat rescue thing. This lady who fosters cats in America, and she used to foster cats for ages, and then they'd find homes like that because she was famous, and they used to just find homes because everyone followed her and everyone wanted her cats. And I kind of wanted to do that. I wanted to foster reptiles. My Instagram was not famous, but I wanted to do it anyway and just, try. And after doing it for a few months, I kind of just switched and was like, why don't I just do this myself? Because I'm taking them in for myself anyway. I'm sorting out all the vet treatment for them. And that's why it's got such a weird name, Jelly Exotics, because it was born from a weird blog that turned into a rescue, and I kind of just kept the name. So
I love the name.
It's just a bit random. It kind of a very weird way into it. It probably did start as a blog, really, which is, a lot of people will probably give you some really inspiring story. And I'm just like, I just really like to post pictures of animals. And I thought I could put some into it. So yeah, that's my entrance into it, and you just kind of
joined in from there.
Joined in. Yeah.
You dragged her in, really.
I did. I do this to people.
We met via the Jelly Exotics page after Alex had already become a rescue.
She won all of the
bloody
raffles.
I won loads of raffles for their fundraisers, and we just became friends. We started messaging all the time, and then she was like, do you want to help with the rescue? And I went, yeah, I do actually. And then I just never left.
I kicked her out, but she won't leave.
She drags me back in.
Yeah, it's been A wild ride. It's good fun. It's fun. It's horrible. It's every emotion under the sun, I think, most days. But it's worth it. It's good fun. I really enjoy it.
But it's rewarding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very. Well, it can be. It can be very rewarding. I suppose the sort of final results usually are rewarding. It can be very disappointing. Today's been a bit of a miserable day. I don't know. You just keep going. It's like you have bad days, but then good days kind of remind you of why you do it. So it varies.
So what kind of obstacles do you face when you rescue, and when you're in a position to start rehoming them?
Space, funds.
Oh my God, all of the normal stuff. Yeah, space especially. It's really frustrating for us because I rent my flat, and obviously we've got sort of a few of the reptiles here that are finding homes. My mum runs the quarantine, which she's very happy with. she absolutely adores reptiles, but I don't think she ever quite asked to be the quarantine. She's just overloaded, bless her soul. I love my mum.
We all love your mum.
She's amazing. I suppose, it's just space. Space is a big thing. A lot of time, a lot of funds needed.
Especially as a rescue that runs entirely on donations as well. Like, months we're just like, please we have nothing, but we pay vet bills, and like, I mean, we get by obviously, but
a lot of the time it's when you realize you're starting to struggle, it's kind of you sort of like panic. Then it's like, right, raffles, we need to get raffles out, we need to get like events running,
because we don't obviously want to refuse animals that need help, like animals in situations where they need help. So we're always just sort of fundraise.
I mean, I don't like asking for money either. I hate putting like posts out asking for money. It bugs me.
Have a raffle ticket.
So it's kind of like, have a raffle ticket for your donation. So we try to do fundraising that way rather than sort of just asking for donations. Obviously if people want to donate, that's amazing, but we do like to try and earn it in a bit more of a way, I suppose. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's kind of the same struggles I think every rescue faces in terms of that, really. It's just always obstacles.
Yeah, I do notice that a lot with animal rescues of any type, really, that funds is a big one, and quite a lot of the time you do see a lot of posts that do say, please can you donate if you can. So I do think that's a big factor for any rescue, I think.
I mean, you forget, like, I think a lot of people do get annoyed about rescues that ask for money. And it's one thing that really like gets to me, because at the end of the day, a charity, I mean, I get someone who wants to rescue animals themselves, but when you set up an actual charity or a company or a business, if you like, for want of a better word, but when you set up an actual entity, it should be self-funded, and it shouldn't be something that comes out of your paycheck all the time. I mean, it does come out of your paycheck all the time, but you end up, it should fund itself. You should be doing things that allow it to fund itself. It shouldn't, you don't rely on donations, of course, but you have to make sure it gets its own money, if you know what I mean. Otherwise it's not going to be sustainable in the long run anyway. So funds is a big one, I think, that anyone really struggles with. But I think we do okay for funds. We struggle every month. We're always fighting for them, but we manage. We don't ever, not yet, we haven't been in a position where we're like, we need to stop. Shit.
I think with a part of the funds though would be the vet fees as well though, because with exotic vets few and far between, the price difference between taking your dog to taking your dragon or whatever else, there's quite a jump in price. Because I know there's a local vet to us, and because they're like a corporation sort of vet now instead of a family run one, just to see them alone's like 50 odd quid just for the consultation, never mind the x-rays and any potential medication. So we're quite lucky. The vets that we work with, they've got a Zoo Med trained vet, and she's amazing, but the nurses there are amazing, everyone there is amazing, to be honest, and they give us discounts, and they'll help us out in any way they can. Obviously we never expect anything for free, which it shouldn't be that way anyway, but they definitely do their part. Like, they're as much the rescue as we are, really. So
if we didn't have them, we wouldn't run, really.
No, not at all. Literally not at all. They're incredible. So we're very lucky, I think, because obviously they're literally on our doorstep, whereas a lot of people we know have to travel 2 hours to get to a vet. So
yeah, ours has stopped now. That was about 20 minutes away. Now we're about 40 minutes, 45 minutes away. But we don't mind though, because we go to the family run one. There's a specialist, a lady, she's good. With regards to vets then, when you receive animals, do you go and get them vet checked, i.e. with, like parasite testing, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so every animal we have in, other than aquatic species, because you can't fecal test them, we get fecal tested for parasites, etc. And we wait for the negatives to come back, and we retest if we need to, like on regular intervals if they're not rehomed. In terms of like vet checking, any animal that needs to go to a vet goes to a vet, or any animal we have a doubt about goes to a vet.
Even the slightest little doubt.
Yeah.
But we do like in-house health checks when they come in.
Mm-hmm.
So I or you, and depending on what we're sort of competent in.
Yeah.
Like tortoises, for example, there's no one here that's competent enough to look at a tortoise and identify any kind of issues that would need to go to a vet. So pretty much if we do get a tortoise in, which we generally don't, they go straight to a vet for a health check with a nurse at least, because the nurse there is insanely good, and she is exotic specialized. But yeah, with
lizards, we're pretty good.
we're okay with, yeah. I mean, it depends on the species, but generally we'll give them a good check over just to make sure, like obviously the kind of things that a vet can identify in a little health check anyway. So yeah, we give them a sort of in-house check, and if they need to go to the vet, if there's even the slightest doubt, there's like a discoloration in the scales, if there's a bump that we don't know what it is, anything, the tiniest thing, I'm like, right, to the vet. I want an opinion on that isn't mine, like, if you know what I mean, because I'm not vet trained, obviously. So yeah, it's difficult because you've got to find that balance, because like you say, vets cost a lot. As a specialist, it's about £50 for a consultation. If we brought every animal in, especially when we don't ask for donation, well, we don't ask for an adoption fee, we're just never gonna survive. We're not going to be able to actually do what we do, especially when a lot of the time the animals we get in are healthy. It's a corn snake that someone's had for 3 years, that's grown up well, it's been fed well. At most I can look at it and say it's a bit fat, or it needs a bit more food, whatever. But it's a lot of the time £50 is difficult to spend when you can look at it and identify that there's nothing horrible going on. A lot of the time through monitoring as well, you can identify if there's issues.
Because I was going to say, you touched on quarantine before, and we're big advocates of quarantine, because a lot of the time people who are just Joe public aren't advised to do quarantine. That they're just told, here's some substrate, here's some hides, you go home and put that in. And although the animal is going into a setup on its own, we still recommend a sterile environment for at least 4 to 12 weeks, which is obviously 1 to 3 months. So it depends, a minimum of 4 weeks. So that's usually what we do. So I just wondered, what is your quarantine period, and do you recommend one after you've let an animal go to a new home?
So when they come in, they stay for a minimum of 4 weeks. Like say, if it's it entirely depends on where they've come from, what condition they've been kept in, what condition they're in when they get to us. For someone that's say a bearded dragon that's been kept in the absolute optimum enclosure, when we do a health check on it, it seems in perfect condition, it's had a fecal test done and it's negative. We're looking at 4 to 6 weeks for a quarantine period to make sure nothing comes up out of there. If you get one in that's come from a little bit of a not a great enclosure, bits and pieces like that, then we probably Extend that for a bit longer. Obviously, if they're unwell, then they stay in quarantine for as long as they need to. So it just depends on the case, really, but a minimum of 4 weeks for optimum conditions.
That's really nice to hear, actually, considering how many people very recently don't quarantine and don't realize how actually important it is. So it's really nice to know that as a rescue you do go above and beyond. You're not just getting these animals in to wing them around and chuck them back out the door.
The thing is, when they're here, they are essentially ours. They're like my pets until it sounds horrible, but until we find someone who I would be happy to see my pets with, because they're mine until they go to someone else.
100%.
I adore them. I've literally I've had Clementine for 2 years now, and I don't think I can let her go at this point. She's going to be with me forever. So I love them, and it plays a big part in finding homes. It's probably one of the reasons why we have a very slow rehoming process, because I'm just like, I need to be so sure that this person is going to give them as much love and attention and what they need as we do.
We'd rather find the right home that we know they're going to be happy in forever, than rush through it and potentially have them back or have them in a different rescue a couple months down the line.
That's me. I am exactly that person. I would rather refuse somebody something if I don't get the right vibe from them, or it sounds daft vibes, doesn't it? Because you're like, oh, that person might well be nice, but I just, some of the things that people say back to you and influence your opinion of how well the reptile will be kept. So I'm a stickler for it. I'm the same as I will not move anything on if somebody doesn't show me the setup, or talk me through any type of experience they might have and stuff. I'm fine with helping people who are new and stuff, and I'll always give advice, and I've got my own care sheets and everything. But if people then decide to go against me advice and show me something, for instance, like if I recommend a 4 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot as a minimum for a dragon, and then they send me a photograph of a 3 foot setup, they're an absolute no. New keepers who are like willing to take on board the advice that you're giving them, that's fine. But if you're giving someone advice and then they're completely ignoring what advice you've given them, then it's just a no.
We get both of those. My favourite are new owners that love to listen to all your advice.
I know. I'm like, I'm really guilty. I'm like, I feel like I could influence this person to do anything. I do. It's definitely appreciated, because it's like, well, they're actually listening. And I like it when people question as well, like not in a negative way, as in like I've heard that, I want to use mats because I prefer them, and I've heard that they're so much better. And I'm just like, well, that's not. But then there are people that just sort of are like, well, I've heard that mats are interesting. Why is it that you say, mats are good? Why is it that you say you prefer overhead heating? And then I can explain to them. And then if they're willing to take that on board, then that's
a good sign.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I said to you before, when we were looking at things, I was like, enthusiasm for the animal that they're adopting is so important.
Yeah.
I hate it. It's a real peeve of mine when people message and they're like, have you got any lizards? And I'm like,
or I'm looking for a reptile for this space.
I've got a little 1 foot box. Have you got any royal pythons? I'm like, no, not for that space.
So what would you say is the number one reason that you get rehomes coming into you?
Time probably is a top one.
I just don't feel like they need the time.
I don't have the time for them. I don't have the time to get them out, or things like that.
That's the main thing I see as well when people put posts up. I know
I want him to be with someone like that appreciates them more, or someone that gives them the time they deserve. I love that. Yeah, we get that a lot.
You got bored.
Yeah. That's literally.
Yeah.
I'm bored with this one now. Goodbye.
It's not cool anymore. I don't want it.
Yeah.
We get some very genuine, obviously we get genuine people that have absolutely, the circumstances have completely changed. And as well, people that struggle with, mental health, that they just can't, they're really struggling to keep on top of everything. But yeah, you get a lot of the non-genuine. Well, I'd say non-genuine, but the actual, the ones that literally are just, I'm bored. I'm bored of this now. Can it just go away?
Or we get a few sort of like, they struck at me and now I'm scared to touch it.
When I worked in the pet shop, there was a few people, but they bought like corn snakes and stuff for kids, and the kids obviously just been like feeding them, and sometimes snakes aren't the greatest at catching the food. They're just not. This one time it's like missed, not hit them, but just missed completely. They've been like, no, that's it, and then they'd hand them back in.
Time to eat me.
It's not an aggressive snake, it's just like had one accident where it's missed the food.
Especially with kids, like if they bought it for a kid, and then if they do get bitten, it's even worse. But even if they don't, they're just like too scared to handle it or clean it out or feed it or whatever. And we get those sometimes.
Yeah, and it's a shame, because I know, I went through it when I was younger. I had a bearded dragon, and I went through a really severe phobia stage of being ill. I still have this very bad phobia, and I used to think I'd catch salmonella from my dragon, and I must not have touched him for probably like 2 years. I was too scared to go in and get him out. My mum looked after him because that's what parents should do for their children. have the dragon.
Buy an animal for your kid. It's technically your animal. It's not actually for the
if they're under 16 or even under 18, it's like
they are your responsibility.
They need to be the parents' responsibility.
So what kind of conditions have you had animals come into you? And obviously I'm assuming some are in quite good condition, but then there'll be the ones that aren't in great conditions. I mean, what is your reaction, when you receive something that is not in the best condition? Because I know with doing what you do, you have to be civil in a way, I guess, when people do bring in.
It's the hardest part.
What is the worst sort of condition that you've seen, but turned it around?
To be honest, it's difficult because a lot of the time we seem to we get animals that are literally, they're at the end, and it's really hard. We deal with, we've seen some horrendous cases. We had Shula. Shula was a positive one.
I love Shula.
We love Shula, and we get nice updates on Shula as well, because Shula's in this fabulous enclosure, big bioactive enclosure. And
Shula's a bearded dragon.
Yeah, Shula's a bearded dragon, and he came in, so he was being kept in now this is not this is one of those ones where the previous owners were they had no idea. They bought a pair of dragons off someone on one of the terrible websites that just you just sell animals on. They bought them not really knowing what they were doing. Bless them. They tried. She was lovely, and she got them, and she was really worried about them, so she contacted us for advice. And the first advice was to separate them because they were two males in the end, and the one had quite severely dominated over the other one. His spine was completely twisted, where he'd been the vet assumed that he'd been bitten and it got infected and caused the twist in his spine. But he was missing toes. He was so thin. Lovely boy. He was so sweet. He was nice. They were being kept together in a 3-foot enclosure. Obviously, we gave her the advice that she needed to upgrade. She needed to get a better UVB bulb. That was the priority. But obviously then to move him into a bigger one, the remaining dragon, because we left her with the other one because she was perfectly capable of looking after them with some advice. I think she just needed the right guidance. And we took Shula home with us because she didn't have the space for 2 enclosures, and looked after him because he was quite poorly. But he pulled through, and he was such a character. Oh my god, he was so funny. I used to keep him on the floor, and he used to follow you everywhere, and he absolutely loves salad. I've never known a bearded dragon love salad as much as Shula loves salad. It was like you took it in the morning, he'd just be like, he'd come mental. He literally just salad flying everywhere. I loved it. You could hand feed it him while he was walking around. And he used to do this thing where he had one of his eyes, I don't know if it was from a bite, but one of his eyes was I
remember this. He
was blind in the one eye, so you had to hold the salad to his left, and then he'd go round in a little circle because he couldn't see, so he'd just be it was so cute.
Anything moving near his face had to be food, obviously. So he used to just chase your hands if you drag them across the floor. He'd be like, "Oh my god, a bug!" trying to get you. So cute. But yeah, he's so good now. We get pictures of him, and he just looks amazing. You wouldn't even tell that his spine is twisted. Yeah. His spine is still twisted. We've got the X-ray, which we can show you. It's quite cool. It's obviously not nice, but I like interesting.
Bones.
Interesting to look at. Yeah, we're all like that. We all like looking at things that's more in depth and stuff like that.
The X-rays are really, really interesting. But funnily enough, his bone density was actually quite good. I think he actually didn't have metabolic bone disease, which is really lucky. But yeah, his spine was just mangled. It was proper it looked like a Z shape. But he was
now
a sweetheart.
He's doing great.
And he's doing great. But we've had some horrendous ones. It's very frustrating because I feel like a lot of the time, because a lot of people wait until it's too late to kind of get help. And even with as much rehabilitation as we can give, with the vets doing what they can, we had one snake that came in that had a quite severe respiratory infection, and the owners had done the right thing. They were treating him at the vets, and sadly they got flooded out. Their house was completely swamped, and they had to rehome him. They were really upset, so that he got the treatment, and we had him here, and he died a couple of months later because his respiratory infection just was so far into his
respiratory system.
Respiratory tract and stuff. He was beyond it, but it's just a shame. It's just really sad when shit like that happens. I hate it. But yeah, we get a lot that sometimes they're in for a day, because ones that are found that are in bad condition, like the one we had today, he was with us for 2 hours and passed away. He'd obviously just been holding on as long as he could and couldn't do it any longer, so he passed away today. But it sucks, really, that kind of side of it. But
I think the positive you can take from that is when they do take those final few hours, whatever, they're in some way that genuinely cares.
Yeah, that's what I have to tell myself all the time. I'm like, oh god, at least your last moments were in the right place, in somewhere that loves them to pieces. But
ego as well, ego and pride is one of the things I think that damages people, to not go and get the help instead of just saying, look, I'm at a loss, help me that bit sooner. People will hold on because they don't like the pride being dented, and they think they're doing the right thing and stuff. So it's like, it's detrimental to that animal. Literally,
it's a shame. It is sad, and I see it a lot in working in like the veterinary field as well. A lot of people, I think they don't regard reptiles as highly as they do other animals. So many people, they just don't. It's like they just don't even think that they're worth anything more than chuck it some food. Like it's the same with fish. I don't deal with fish because I don't understand aquatics at all, but I see it a lot with fish. It's kind of like, oh, they eat each other sometimes and they do this, and oh, that one's picked off the fins of this one, and it's like, geez, like they're vertebrates, like stop.
That's not good.
It's not a good thing. Don't casually say it like it's nothing. And a lot of people are like that with reptiles.
My cat just ate my other cat.
Oh my god. I suppose it's wild. I just don't understand how people don't see them the same. So a lot of people that bring them to us, they just don't have a clue. It's like, oh, it's a dragon, it's really healthy, come and take it. And I've got there and I'm like, this dragon's nearly dead. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, some people don't realise, but then there's those that do and wait till, as Nick was saying, wait till it's far too late.
Yeah. We're lucky, really. The negatives, it sounds, we see a lot of horrible cases, but a lot of the time it's not, we haven't had to deal with many horrible people, to be honest. We're quite lucky. I know a lot of rescues that do, and it's always a nightmare, but we're quite lucky, really, that we get genuine owners that do care, and they've got to that point where they're at a loss and they come to us for help. We have to be very professional, and
we always act on sort of a
positive
no-judgment basis, even if it's hard.
It's very hard sometimes, but you have to be that way, because at the end of the day, if you start ripping into people for handing animals over, no one's gonna
hand them over. Have you seen many in recent? Because in recent years, there's been a lot of bearded dragons with neurological issues. Have you ever had any of those handed in or anything? I just wonder, it's just me being curious, because
we had a dragon come in called Lizzie. She had neurological issues. Little Lizzie, she passed away, actually. Sounds horrible. It's horrible. It was horrible, but she was so lovely. She had been to the vets to check it out, because it was very odd. She was like, she'd stargaze and she'd like wobble her head. It was really sad, but she ended up dying from, I think it must have been not polycystic ovaries. That's what we get.
Is it the York collomitis stuff?
It was, I think, to be honest, we don't know. She passed away here, and we didn't get a post-mortem done because that was before the point where we had made the decision to do post-mortems on any sort of unexplained death. She went to the vets to be cremated, but we didn't have a post-mortem done, which is really annoying, because we do them now for everything. But I think, judging by the way she was so small and her belly was quite swollen, I think she might have had cholestasis. I think
that's it. Yeah, that's the same. Yeah,
it's the same thing. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
So yeah, I think that probably was what it was in the end. But yeah, she had, like I say, she'd been to the vets. We do lean a lot on the vets for support in that sort of thing. So we kind of, obviously we took her, and they were sort of happy with her in general. They didn't really have an explanation for the swollen belly at that point, which is frustrating, really. But that was
because it's usually too late by the time the belly swells, unfortunately. So,
Yeah, exactly.
but was she translucent?
No, I don't think so. We've never had I don't think we've ever had a beardy morphin, like something that isn't just a.
Other than Opal the silk.
Oh yeah, we've had Opal the silkback, but
He stays with us.
he stays with us, man.
So
He's got
complex.
a myriad of problems, bless his soul.
Yeah.
They do silkbacks, yeah.
Don't.
Yeah. I mean,
So
he
many.
is the ugliest but cutest bearded dragon I've ever seen in my entire life. And even like,
Don't let my mum hear you say that.
no, Carol calls him ugly all the time.
No,
She's like, you're so ugly, but I love you. Like,
so sweet.
but he's so sweet, like he's so handleable, but he always has to have baths and he just sits there like, really?
What is life?
Again?
He's so cute.
Oh, it's a shit. We are very against silkback breeding,
Yeah.
so
I'm glad to hear that, because we're so against it. After we've
Yeah.
seen one, it's like, oh my god, well, how are these even allowed to be bred?
Yeah, and like I've seen a couple of people that have purposely bred them, and like they don't understand like the complexities of having the silkback, and then they're not telling people who buy them because they look pretty the complexities of having a silkback, so that they're torn skin, can't shed,
Their eyes as well. They've got no scale structure on their
God.
eyes, and this, bless him, is like, we took, again, this is he's been to see the zoo med trained vet, and she said like there's not a lot you can do because it is just because of the way his eyes, there's no scales to hold the structure of his eyes. His eyes just are deformed, and then his tear ducts are a bit blocked, so he gets like little swollen eyes, and not swollen eyes, but they look like little bubbles.
yeah.
Sometimes it scares me because when he goes to, his eyes sort of like come out a little bit and then they go back in, and I'm like, no, oh my god.
It terrified me when he did that the first time. I was like calling the vets, like, oh my god, his eyes prolapsed. It was horrible. And they were like, and she said it is just because the structure of his eye, there's just nothing there to hold the structure. It's horrible. I don't know how people can breed them. I don't even know.
We don't agree with
God.
leatherback to leatherback.
No. Well, I mean, it's hard for the breeding process is supposed to be. I mean, I've heard that it's quite difficult anyway, because obviously the leatherbacks have got, obviously they're not completely unprotected like a silkback, but they have less scale protection, so it can be quite aggressive for the female, I've heard. So
I would have thought so. I've never bred two leatherbacks together, but I do know people that have, and I am always saying you shouldn't breed plenty different morphs together, but a lot of people do, so unfortunately.
It's a shame that it still happens, but
it's really annoying. I don't know why people do it.
On average a month, how many reptiles do you usually take in?
Not that sounds awful. We're very small. We are a small rescue. It's run from my second bedroom, my mum's like upstairs room, very small,
and my computer.
and yeah, and your computer, you don't have animals, do you? Well,
I've got the snail.
You got the snail. So we're small, and we very much know what's the word, we work within our means, is that the thing? There's no point pushing ourselves to the point of having so many animals in we can't look after them properly. What's the point? Then you're becoming the need to be rescued yourself.
Yeah, you're becoming the problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So we take in probably maybe 2 or 3 a month.
Yeah, maybe 4 at a push.
Yeah, 4 or 5 on a bad month.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes like we'll go a month with nothing, and then the next month we'll have like 4 or
5. So it
makes up for itself.
We don't really take in very many.
We try to. I mean, if owners they want to keep their animal, but they're not sure what they're doing, then we'd rather they stay in their homes and just they get advice and guidance, and we just help them out rather than bring animals in if they don't need it. We try and save our spaces for sort of welfare cases, if we can. Yeah.
That's dead refreshing to hear that though, because not to throw shade, I see a few like rescues, they'll take in a lot of animals and be like, well, we've got this, and they'll just keep pushing them out but pulling them in, and then they become inundated, but you don't see it, and then their care standards slip, and you see it as like general public. You say, hang on a minute, should you really be housing these animals like that? Get rid of a few, downsize properly, and up your standards, because what you're doing is perpetuating the cycle of neglecting these animals that are coming into you. So it's like never-ending circus.
Yeah,
that's what we really try hard to avoid.
Try very hard to avoid. I mean, at the end of the day, we will be there for people that need us. Like if someone is calling because they don't have the time for their reptile anymore, then we do try to encourage them. We say obviously there is a waiting list, we do prioritize welfare cases, have you thought about advertising them here? We can offer support in that sense of home checking, things like that. If it saves us a space to bring an animal in that needs it, obviously we get the odd call where it's like, we found this snake in the middle of nowhere in the car park or in the boot in the on the lay-by. And
that was the other week. We sat down to watch a movie and then Alex said, we need to go get a snake from a boot.
From a car boot.
I was like, okay.
Off we go. So we never get to watch films. So yeah, obviously in those cases it's difficult, because if we have no space, we do have to make things work. So we've got emergency enclosures that are like the top down Monkfield vivs, like those ones. We have big rubs, for worst case scenarios, we've got space to bring things in, and then while we work the vivs out, because there's always ways we can wiggle things around in order to make sure they're in a viv. But a lot of the time it's, we have to be
vigilant.
We have to be quick.
That's another thing you said, you prioritize welfare. Like, the easiest thing for a rescue to do would be to take in the ones that people don't have time for because they're better cared for, instead of the welfare cases. So that's where you can kind of start weeding out the fame seekers to the people who genuinely like. Well, you must enjoy it to a degree to do it, but you know what I mean when I say this.
Yeah,
I always think that it's, to be honest, because we do prioritize the welfare cases, I worry that it makes us look bad because we get a lot more of the bad outcomes, and I'm forever sort of saying, is there something I'm doing wrong? And it's, the percentage of, don't get me wrong, it's not a high percentage of like, death rates, but we do get probably maybe more than some of even the bigger ones, but that a lot of the time I have to tell myself, in terms of percentage, you have to look at the coming in percentage as well. We don't take in as many healthy animals at all. We get a lot of, like I say before, we take a lot of animals that are on death's door, and we've had animals that have come in for a day because we've taken them straight to the vets, got x-rays and tests done, and it's, the vet said there is nothing you can do for this animal. It is, we've had animals in with 3 broken legs and severe MBD that are never going to recover from that. We've had animals that spine has fused so much they're in a spiral forever and they can't move properly. And it makes us look bad, which is horrible because we can't save them. But at the end of the day, we're not going to keep an animal alive for the sake of, yay, we saved it. And it's like, you're not saving it. It's suffering. It's in severe pain.
Yeah. You've got to
look at quality of life.
Yeah, the moral and ethical standpoint you need to have, instead of just, I think it gives you a lot of commendation to say, look, we prioritize welfare. Not all the outcomes are great, because if you're prioritizing welfare, you're going for those severe cases and stuff. So it tallies up, and I don't think it makes you look bad at all. I think it honestly makes you look like a genuine rescue and rehome, because if I was seeing someone with all these great intakes all the time and they're just no time for them and stuff, then you're thinking, you're really a rescue? Because I think that's where people confuse, like they go, oh, I rescued this Leo from this and this, and it's not, they just rehomed it, sort of thing.
Ooh,
so
that's a pet peeve. That is a pet peeve. I don't know what you guys class as a rescue versus rehome, but for me, I always class like rehome is something that is sort of in, the enclosure isn't perfect, but the animal isn't really in ill health. It might just need a little bit more food. Also, where you've like had to pay for the animal, you've had to pay to take it out of that like care. I class that as a rehome. For a rescue, I usually class as like, you don't pay for it, it needs vet care, it's got something severely wrong, that's what I usually class. But I know a lot of people just like to use the word rescue for everything, regardless of its situation. I feel like it takes away from the word rescue. You're still doing a good thing if you're rehoming something, but it's not quite as severe as rescuing something. Like that animal needs to be taken.
Yeah, definitely. I try to categorize things that come in as rehomes and rescues, but obviously we do take in quite a few rehomes, to be honest. They're they're lovely, and it's nice sometimes. A lot of the time they're usually just unhandleable. We get a lot of rehomes that are unhandleable because they haven't been handled for so long.
Like great condition, but thinks your food.
We'll eat your face all the time. It's great. We've got so many angry corn
steaks. Oh, you're so cute. Ow.
I love those ones. Spicy noodles. But we do get, we've had quite a few like rescue situations where it's been, this animal needs to come in or it's going to die. and a lot of the time the animal needs to come in to die, which sounds horrible, but it's, you know, like I say, you know, we always follow vet advice. We do challenge the vets if we feel like an animal can be worked with. If they're sort of saying, you know, you need to consider euthanasia, we'll say, well, you know, tell me why. And sorry. And then we can, you know, is there anything we can do? What's the recovery like? What's the recovery time like? It's so difficult. Every case is different, and you just never know what you're going to get.
It's like, obviously, we'll always fight for the best outcome.
Yeah.
But sometimes the best outcome is them not suffering for their entire life, you know?
That moral and ethical standpoint again.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's a nightmare, but it's the
amount of times I've cried receiving like the vets probably think I'm emotionless, but because they tell me over the phone, and we make the decision to obviously like put an animal to sleep, and I'm always like, I'm very stoic, that's not the word, I'm very like steady on the phone, and then as soon as I hang up I'm just sobbing, because it's horrible. It's so horrible to have to make that decision, especially when you wish you could just do something to help them, and it's just heartbreaking. I hate it. And every day I'm just like, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. I'm just not doing it anymore.
I mean, obviously the good cases, they make it all worth it, but they also mean that we can help.
Yeah, people have to just show me pictures of Shula and Zap and
Drew,
and I'm just like, it's okay.
She's like, I can't do it, and I'm like, but you can't think of Clementine.
It's so frustrating.
Oh god.
Just a horrible job.
We went on a bit of a depressing spiel there, sorry.
What's the most common species you usually take in? Like,
I don't know, it's like corn snakes or dragons, really.
Dragons, corn snakes.
I figured that was, I think that's because pet shops will say, oh yeah, lovely starter reptile. Every time. He's a starter reptile for you.
Corn snakes.
It sounds horrible. I hate taking in corn snakes. I love corn snakes. Corn snakes are my favourite. If I could specialise and say, right, we're only taking in one species of animal, I would choose corn snakes any day. I just think they're incredible. I would own every corn snake in the world. I think they're so different. Every corn snake has this tiny little personality, and they're very characterful. I love them, and they're colourful. They're lovely. No one else agrees with me. Just like,
they stay here forever.
They're just always here, and we can't get rid of them. That sounds horrible. We never, you know what I mean? But we just can't. No one wants to rehome them. We get the odd person. As soon as someone's like, I'm really interested in rehoming a corn snake, I'm like, talk to me. Here is all of the corn snakes we have. You can choose any of them. They're all, maybe 90% of them will bite you, but they're all fine. Because they're just always, so much attitude. Yeah. And corn snakes are the most frustrating. Bearded dragons we get a lot of, but they do tend to find homes quite quickly.
Yeah. But the thing is with bearded dragons as well is like 50-50. 50% of them are really good starter reptiles because they're so handleable and chill, and then the other 50% we get jump out the viv. So it's kind of we've had a couple of bitey ones as well, which is very rare. People love them though. They just think, oh my god, they got so much attitude, I love them. Why can't you think that about a corn snake? Do you want an attitudey corn snake?
Vimto was my greatest success. Finding a home for Vimto, and his owners were so lovely. They literally loved him, and he would
fighting.
He would eat you. Like, I've never known a corn snake like it. I know obviously ones that strike at you when you go in because they think you're food, that's one thing, can deal with that, it's fine, you just have to work around it. Corn snakes that are just a bit nervous and they get a bit flighty, they musk and things like that, it's fine. You just think maybe they don't want to be handled, that's fine, they don't have to be a handleable corn snake. Vimto was just like
savage.
He's tried to eat me so many times. That's not just like tried to bite me. That's tried to eat me. Like, I've had to like get to the point of using vodka to get him off my hand, because he just, under the tap, he's like, no, I'm going to stay. I'm still trying to eat your thumb. I can get down your thumb, just you watch. And I'm like, stop, because my thumb is like in pain. And you have to get to the point where you're literally like dabbing a little bit of vodka on his nose, and he's finally lets go. And it's like, right, into the bib. No more. He was so much fun. And to be honest, he had good days. But we have to be like, in situations like that, you've just got to be so honest with people. Like, you can't. I couldn't tell people that he's like a friendly corn snake.
You couldn't be like, oh, sometimes he's a bit. He can be a bit aggressive, No,
food oriented.
actually no. He is. He will eat you, but you know we love him for it.
And that's when you just know you found the right person, when they're like, I've had corn snakes before, I really like the feisty ones, I'm absolutely fine with him biting me, it's just part of his character, and I'm like, you're a good person. You can have him, Joe. Would you like any more? Oh, so yeah, my greatest success, Vimto. There you go.
Yeah,
I love him. I miss him.
I don't.
Mum's not the most confident handler.
No, she loves them, but she
loves them so
she's
much.
Very skittish.
She's just so scared. Alex, can you come and get Bane out for me so I can clean him out?
Like, you can clean out this one because I'm scared to touch it.
She's so sweet. Bless
Oh.
her. Yeah, corn snakes and bearded dragons.
Back to the original question.
Yeah.
Corn snakes and bearded dragons.
Quick interval to tell you this week's codes are Herping Pod 5 for 5% off all orders under £20 and Herping Pod 10 for 10% off any orders over £20. That's Herping Pod, HERPING-POD 5 or Herping Pod 10. Is there any species that you can't or you won't take in?
Turtles.
I feel like this is something you've spoken about before. The answer straight turtles.
Yeah, it makes me so sad because I like turtles.
Yeah, say it more convincingly.
I do.
Make me believe it. Come on.
Like
I
if I
turtles.
went to a zoo and I could look at turtles, I'm just like, I love them. They're so cute, and I loved my turtle. I had a turtle for a while, little George, and I loved them, but
We can't do it.
I don't want to do
Please.
it.
We don't have the space or the time, to be frank.
They take so much time, and we just don't have the space, but we get so many requests to take turtles in, and I just hate it. It's the most difficult situation because a lot of the time they're the species one of the banned species that you can't buy and sell, and as a rescue we can't take in for longer than 6 weeks, which is obviously another factor of the reason why we can't take them in. But I have this like constant, I have to help people. I can't, if someone comes to me, I feel I can't just be like, no, sorry, bye, because then I'm like, right, so I'll ask around and see if I can find someone to help, and then I ended up spending so much time trying to find space for a turtle to go because no one wants turtles. Nobody wants turtles, and it's just like these little babies and nobody wants them.
We do a lot of referring to the National Centre of Reptile Welfare.
I feel awful. Poor Chris. I'm just like, hi, we got a turtle. And there's a few other people I know that like privately take in turtles and look after them that I also utilize. I'm just like, please help.
Have you got space in your pond?
I've got someone I know who does have a nice little secure pond who takes on some turtles, but they have to be ones that are used to being outdoors or not cared for properly. Obviously ones that have lived in a tank can't just go into a pond. So it's they're just so difficult.
Yeah, especially when we all work or study or both full time. It's like
and then you're also I'm like sat at the reception desk trying to sort out a turtle while at the same time trying to like answer and speak to clients. I'm just like, I can't do any turtle. Turtles are the main thing. We don't take in anything that's too big.
Giant snakes and like iguanas and things. We just don't have the space.
We don't have
or
the
the expertise.
We do a lot of referring for those. Obviously there's some good giant snake species rescues that we love, that we can refer people to. A lot of experienced keepers, Kando, Welsh Morphology that you've had on. We speak to them a lot if we get anything that's very niche. We had a Basilisk Lizard come in, and I wouldn't normally have taken it in, but we did have an enclosure that was suitable, and this person was very keen to just give it away to someone on Facebook, and it was like, don't do that, please let us take it in. So we took it in, and straight away I was speaking to Kando like, can you help us please? And so we had it fecal tested, and it stayed with us for a quarantine period, and then it went straight to them. And she features in loads of pictures now, and I love seeing them. I'm like, yay, my baby. So yeah, things like that. You just have to work with people. You can't, we wouldn't take anything in because we wanted the
hype about
it. Again, that's refreshing to hear, because a lot of people will just take them in and be like, oh, that's an interesting species. Never had that before, and they'll take it in, and then it's like, oh God, I've got something that could potentially swallow my entire arm. what are you
Literally. Yeah, it's frustrating. You know, we never claim to be this incredible, you know, we'll take in anything, we'll do anything, we can do everything.
Yeah.
We specialize in pet species. The charity that we run is not just to take in animals, it's to support pet owners.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time our focus is on the typical pet species that you see, and that's more of our niche really, which to be honest, I don't think you see a lot in reptile keepers, because a lot of the time reptile keeping is about having something flashy and something different, and
species.
so I think the poor little corn snakes, everyone forgets about them. I love
And there's just us three that have got like bearded dragons, leopard geckos, crested, the three main like
I know
species, and like
and they're just
my cresties stay flashy. Oh, my bearded dragon stay flashy.
I love it. I'm always just like, look at my corn snake, isn't it special? I love them.
I've got
I
corn
love
snakes.
corn snakes.
I've got pet corn snakes. Don't breed them or anything. I've had them. What is it? 9 and 8 years now. So I wouldn't be without. Like, I've got a snow, and she's really mean, like incredibly mean. But I'd never get rid of her. I'd never change her. She just attacks the glass and everything.
Like eat you through the glass kind of mean. I only had to walk past it, and she's like trying to eat me, and I'm like, please control your snake.
That's like my salsa.
Yeah, she'll rattle me and everything, but I'd never change it because that's what I signed up for. Like, that is my responsibility regardless now. So yeah, I do appreciate corns.
They've got 10. Do you want some?
Yeah, like if you want a corn snake, I've got loads. And if you like angry ones, I've got loads. Some of them are so pretty.
I'm just waiting for Nick to go, Stacey.
No.
Just you wait, I'll be at that later. Hey Stace, do you fancy building me another Viv?
Yeah, well, they are all on our Facebook page and our website.
I love that. The plug.
The plug of the website that I made.
Well, speaking of like angry corns and stuff, what's the most difficult species you've had to rehabilitate?
Difficult as in behaviour or difficult as in physically?
Either or.
Yeah.
I don't know really. I think they've all had their difficulties. I mean,
I wouldn't say it's been species specific. It's kind of individual specific.
yeah,
Yeah.
individual specific.
Yeah, like we've had difficult individuals rather than a difficult species overall.
Drew still drives me insane. Bless her little soul. She's a little AFT. She was being kept in like a little 1 foot exoterra cube.
Oh, look. Get excited.
Partial to an African fat tail.
Fat tails here.
She is very cute. She was kept on calci sand with a heat mat under the calci sand, and she was fed on ham and chicken for a year.
What?
Yeah. Nah. Your guess is as good as mine. This poor little thing, bless her. I don't know, I think she's got MBD in her jaw because she struggles to like chew, so we're going to get some x-rays I think, but she
It's probably all the ham.
yeah,
I saw that.
but she, I don't like, it was very perplexing when you go in and you're like, so what's her diet? And they were like, well, she won't eat bugs, so we fed her ham and chicken for a year. And I was like, okay. Okay.
Sat there having Sunday dinner. Just
Bless him. I mean, again, it's horrible, but it's not malicious. It's dangerous, but it's inexperienced.
Uneducated.
Not knowing.
Yeah, uneducated.
Yeah, and it's horrible because the guy was lovely and he loved her to pieces. Again, it's always the same thing, but he just didn't realize that an insectivorous lizard shouldn't have
Sorry, I'm not laughing. I'm just
ham and chicken. And it's like,
I'm actually quite shocked about that one because
perplexed.
yeah,
it's what I mean. That's what the thought. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
You
should see her now when she struggles. She doesn't eat, does she?
She doesn't.
So she gets like
still
syringe fed, and she's so cute. Carol wraps her up in a little towel.
My mom.
And she's out with her little front legs in her head, and she like syringes her food. And she started having bugs recently, hasn't she?
Yeah,
with the syringe food
she's doing
on
really
it,
well.
with the emerald on it, and she gets so excited. But it's so cute. And Alex sends me videos of like Drew just in his towel.
My mom. She's like, my mom is the loveliest lady, and she's so sweet, and she's just sat there. She's not experienced with reptiles. Obviously, we give her the guidance to do things, and then she does them because she just loves them. And she's sat, and like I said, she's just got a little wrapped up in a towel. She's lying on her like boobs, just like sat there like a little child. And she's just there like, "Ooh, ready for your dinner now, Drew?" Like this. And I'm just like, "Oh, Mom, you're so cute."
I think she loves Zap.
Oh yeah, she loves Zap as well. She just loves them. Loves them. Zap's like a neurological leopard gecko.
She's got a big wobble.
Very big wobble. Bless her. She was
so
like,
cute.
eat little bugs, and she's one of those, like, she's so sweet. She just takes ages to feed because you hold like a little bug in front of her and she's like, "Yeah, the bug, I'm gonna eat the bug," and then she just strikes off to the left every time. And so you have to be ready to like move the bug in front of her.
She gets
just
too excited and flips herself.
Yeah, she gets really excited and then she rolls and it's like,
And we're like, "No, come back."
so you have to try and like, we have to feed her a little bit every day, which obviously you don't generally do for geckos. It's, you know, you do it every sort of 2-3 days, but you find if she's the hungrier she is, the more excited and out of control she gets. So we have to feed her little and do it every day so that she's a little less
Wobbly.
Yeah. Bless her. But she's so sweet. She's a sweet little gecko. Mum just loves her as well. So Mum's just crazy gecko lady at the moment. Donnie was very difficult, but he didn't make it in the end. He was the one with the respiratory infection, but he was going to the vets every sort of 2 weeks, the tube feeding and all sorts. And that was a difficult one because we had him for so long and we worked with him for so long.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where we took him to the vets and the vet, you know, said to us, he's basically just trying to die at this point. So we had to make the decision to have him put to sleep. And that was hard. I cried a lot for that one. But it was, it's just, yeah, difficult in different ways. Everything's hard.
I'm going to make the assumption then that it's not going to be species specific, the reward inside, it's individual case specific.
Oh yeah. That like you see difficult cases in all different species. So it's, in terms of like the most rewarding, it just varies. It varies. Bearded dragons tend to bounce back quite well.
Yeah, again, Sheila's a good example.
Yeah, Sheila's a lovely example of something that's just persevered and come out on top. A lot of the time it's down to the animal. A lot of, you know, you can't, some animals have fight in them and some don't.
Yeah.
It's sad when you get them and you can tell that they're just like, they've been fighting for so long and they're just like, I can't do it anymore. And you've got to help them on the way, you know. But it's nice when you get ones like Sheila that's like, no, I will be fine.
Yeah.
And I will survive.
I think every animal that we've rehabilitated that's still with us or we've rehomed, every single one is rewarding. Like if not in the same way, in completely different ways, because they're all completely different. So I feel like no matter who it is, it's always rewarding if there's a positive outcome. And even some of the negative outcomes, like
it's rewarding to know that
you've done the best you could for that animal. You've helped them in some way, you know.
Roxy, oh my god.
Roxy, she was
the boa with the seller with about spiral. She was literally like frozen, you know. Seeing her and taking her in and making sure she didn't suffer anymore is
because as I said earlier, they've taken those final moments or months in somewhere that genuinely has tried and genuinely has cared. And I think it would be selfish to not make the call and say, because they can't make the call themselves, whereas us as humans can say, no, enough's enough for them. So
it's hard because in their nature they don't make that call. You know, it's in their nature to disguise the fact that they're ill, and then you know, when they're looking like they're poorly, it's like, well, you know, this animal is severely poorly if they look ill. That's the thing with reptiles. With cats and dogs it's a little bit easier, but with reptiles they disguise it so well. You know, we deal with a lot of people that message us for advice when their animal becomes poorly, and obviously we always tell them to go to a vet, but it's horrible because a lot of the time we're talking to them in the, you know, the final moments of their animal's there with them, and it's horrible to try. You have to reassure them and say that it's not your fault. You know, they hide things till the very last point that they can cope, and it's just sad, really. Reptile keeping's hard. Okay, I can't cope. It's just not nice, but that's what we're there for. We're there to support owners as much as the animals. You know, not all owners are bad, and they shouldn't be tainted with the same brush that others are. You know, you've got to be there for everyone, really.
Yeah. From a rescue standpoint, what is your take on hobbyist breeders or business breeders or just any sort of breeder, I guess?
Well, there's good breeders and there's bad breeders. You certainly can't say breeders as a whole. I think, I don't know. I think working in a vet's, and working in rescue, I see the bad of it. And I'm very, when it comes to breeding, I think it can be done responsibly. And if it's done responsibly, then I have respect for that. And I've never been one to tell people how they should do things and what they should and shouldn't do. But so long as it's done responsibly with the animal's best interest, it's not bad. I don't like it. I'm against it. But that's not, my opinion isn't other people's opinion. I'm not against people breeding. I just wouldn't do it myself. And
yeah.
I struggle more so now than ever with breeding, even though I'm only extremely small scale. I only pair one dragon a year, actually, because I like bringing them up, with making them tame, and I'm very, very fussy with who they go to.
Yeah.
But I do have a inner turmoil, don't I?
Yeah.
With it because of rescues, and I just worry, because rescues are overrun by obviously bearded dragons and geckos and stuff, and snakes. Well, I don't breed snakes, so I do breed leopard geckos, but again, I could count on one hand how many I pair together. I'm just not in it for mass breeding purposes at all. But I have struggled the last year or two with it, and the fact that I am super sensitive, and I do think, is it adding to the problem or is it not? I mean, I can see it from both points of view, really. People have said to me, no, you're not adding to it. You're producing animals that are healthy because you're so stringent on genetics.
Yeah.
It means a lot to you to produce something that doesn't have the problems that are out there. Because like I said before, there's so many at the minute, especially with translucent, and people are incorrectly purring. They come on the scene for about a year, do a load of purring, realise they can't make any profit, and then leave. And then essentially what they've done is bred a load of dragons that could end up potentially having neurological issues because they've not purred ethically. And then as a result, the dragons suffer and they end up with a Parkinson's-like disease from starting with the head.
Yeah.
You don't see the inner workings, you see outwardly the tremors, but you don't know what it's actually done to their inners. So there's all of that to take into consideration, but it does tug at my heartstrings a lot because I can see it from the different sides. I mean, if you're going out there purring tons and tons, then you're going to end up with ones that are going to end up in rescues because people do get fed up with them, unfortunately. That's the way it is with most animals.
I think that just because, even though everything you've just said is valid, obviously, but the fact that you recognise both sides is important. Yeah, is a sign that responsible breeders exist. Woohoo!
Thank you.
Because obviously what Alex was saying about the bad side of breeding, breeders that, like you say, come in, they try and make a quick buck, and then they're like, oh, actually, it doesn't work.
I've seen breeders that literally, I know rescues that have taken on clutches of baby dragons because the breeder's just been like, I can't rehome them, so can you take them? It's like, sure, they get rehomed really quickly, but that's 8 spaces to me, that's 8 dragons that are a bit older that are sat there like, well, nobody wants me because there's a little baby nobody that everyone wants, and I just that's what makes my mind, I'm very emotional in that sense, and I do put emotions into them and that's what makes me of my opinion. And it's not, like I say, I'm not against people breeding, whether I agree with it or not. It doesn't, I'm very
against the people that go into it who don't care for the species that they're working with. They care for how cheaply can I keep it, how quickly can I shift it, and how big can I make my profit. We're exactly the same as you. We are against people that don't care for the species, that just want to be in it for the money. We know a lot of people, we see a lot of what you're talking about, being in the community and being in that side of the community.
I tend to avoid that. I don't go in because it just makes me angry.
So do we, because some of the stuff that people come out with, it makes you kind of ashamed of the community. We're all meant to be here to enjoy the same thing. We all are here because we love reptiles. We're all here because we enjoy a certain species, depending on what species you like. but it's those few people that like to ruin it for everyone else, you know, that are going out of their way to keep as cheaply as possible, who are going out of their way, you know, to make the biggest buck by lying about care, which in the end, if you lie about care, that causes illness, and then that's where you guys then have to step in. So I think Stacey and Nick are the same, where we won't give babies to people or animals to people that we are 100.
I'd rather keep them.
Yeah,
I'd rather keep them.
Actually, what I'm like, I will hoard everything, and I like Stacey obviously does. We only produce what we know we can keep full term. If we can't keep it full term, we don't pair. We don't pair for profit. My UVB bill comes up soon, and I didn't even want to talk about that. But yeah, it's like, I know that Stacey doesn't cut any corners with things. Like, I know that I don't cut any corners with things, but we know that there are breeders out there that do claim the hobbyist title, that are cutting corners, are trying to make it as cheap as possible. So I understand where that hate comes from, because I also have that hate. Like, that view. Even though I do breed myself, I still have that hate for those people that do ruin it for everyone, and are in turn just basically giving those animals to whoever, basically,
to be honest,
those animals before they're even, you know,
if you're feeding baby dragons correctly or baby geckos, you would never make a profit anyway. And you see a lot of baby dragons that are being sold as 12 weeks, 8 weeks old, and they're so tiny, and it's like, hang on, there's no chance that that's the age that you're saying it is, and there's not a chance that that tiny little dot is that old. So yeah, if you look at it in that way, then if you feed them correctly and you bring them up under the right light and heating, then you would never make any profit. For me, I enjoy the girls being able to handle the babies and stuff, because they're learning and they enjoy giving them baths with us and stuff like that, and feeding them the salad. I mean, the tortoise, we don't breed tortoises, but we've got a red foot, and he absolutely adores Alice, doesn't he? Alice is only 2, and every time she goes in the reptile room, he comes, and I'll tell you what, everyone who says tortoise are slow are just lies. It's like, no. So as soon as he sees her coming in, that's it. He bolts straight out of his hide near his heat source, all the way over to the far end of the Viv, just because he knows that she's going to open the door and share her fruit with him.
No,
so it's
in it for the food.
Yeah, so it's just nice, you know, that they can interact with the animals and stuff. So I like them helping me, you know, with the babies, and they end up, anyone can handle them because they're that well. They're handled every single day. So
now me, I'm not a breeder, and I'm under the firm belief, call someone out, call everyone out. I'm brutal for it. Like, I'll literally post all day. I don't care. Like, I don't like, if I think someone's being unethical, like, if you keep brushing under the carpet with this code of silence for breeders, then you are part of the problem. Like, it shouldn't be done. Like, as breeders, they should be held to a higher standard, because they keep harping on about pet shops. Oh, they don't give out good advice, they don't do this. Well, why is a breeder allowed to get away with it? Because they've got that title. So that's my family.
And rescues as well. You know, not every rescue.
Yeah, I'm not going to throw names or anything, but there's a few people I've seen who call themselves rescues, and literally I wouldn't give them mule shoes. Like, I'm not even lying. Like, genuinely wouldn't. What's your opinion on people who breed but then claim to rescue as well?
I don't know. I just can't. I don't know if they could just go together. I don't know.
I personally don't believe they can. I don't. I think you're using the term rescue as an excuse for more animals to breed from. That's my personal opinion on it.
I think someone can rescue animals and have maybe a separate hobby, like a hobbyist breeding project.
As long as they're not mixing.
Yeah. As long as if the problems, you know, occur. Breeding from like rescue animals, I don't agree with.
Yeah,
absolute no-go.
Yeah. When we rehome animals, it's in our agreement, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
you will not breed from this animal.
It's scary letting any animal go, even when there's that contract in place that says you won't breed, you will return it to us if you can't look after it, that kind of thing. Because
there's no guarantee. Really.
You don't know. You're letting, as soon as the animal's out your hands, it's out your hands. So it is stressful. That's why I'm so strict.
Vigilant on homes. Yeah. If someone messages us and we're like, oh, I've seen them in like groups and stuff. Oh, they do a lot of breeding. Oh, they're asking us specifically for a male corn snake or a female corn snake.
Yeah.
It's kind of a red
And they're
flag.
only interested in, you know, this high-end
This
morph that we've
morph,
happened to have come in.
You've got a ghost, or you've got a whatever. It's like, it's just a red flag.
I'm a bit like,
In that case,
no.
no, I don't think they should go together. But in the other case,
yeah, I
maybe.
mean, like I say, I know people that rescue animals, that take on rescue animals, that rehabilitate them, and sometimes they do rehome them, sometimes they keep them and then separately they have animals that they want to breed. And I think, like I say, as long as it's done in that respectful manner, in that way that's ethical and that can be done with the animal's sort of best interest at heart, I'm not against it.
A specific guideline.
My opinion comes from like actual breeders taking in rehomes.
Yeah.
Like I don't agree with that. Like I'm always going to be dubious. Like, you're a breeder, why do you need rehomes? Whereas I know people who hobby breed very small scale, but they will take in rescues because they just love animals.
Yeah.
So with my opinion is, someone who breeds as going out the way for rehomes, then no, that's a no-go. You're getting
it's different.
But, really sus reasons, because if you're a breeder, you can just hold back your own. But yeah, that would be so I don't think they go together. That's my personal opinion, but I'm not a rescue. I'm just a crime.
I don't think I can breed anything. I'm very against it in myself. It's just the way I feel. It's kind of like it's like anything really. I kind of have the conflicted thoughts that I think, is it Stacey that was talking about before, about feeling so conflicted about doing something. Like, I'm the same with a lot. I'm starting to really sway with the whole like outdoor cats, indoor cats thing, which is the example I can think of where I'm very conflicted, and I have very valid opinions on both sides. I've got cats. I know cats that, can't go out, and I know cats that can stay in and still go out. And I don't know, I'm just I hate that horrible conflicted feeling you get, and I'm like that with breeding.
But it's a sign of evolving. Like, it's a sign of learning, and not just being stuck in old opinions. Like, we get a lot of
I hate when people do that,
where they're like, well, 30 years ago a 2-foot viv was fine for this animal, and we're like, okay, but since then there's been a lot of research showing you
everything should be challenged.
Like, in the grand scheme of things, reptile keeping hasn't been going on that long. Like, we've been keeping dogs a long time. Reptile keeping in the grand scheme of things is very new. Like, so it's constantly evolving and changing, and we need to keep up. Otherwise, welfare standards, they slip very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of interesting you said about the cats thing, because I have 4 cats in total, and 2 are outdoor and 2 are indoor.
I'm the same. I foster cats, and I'm very specific. I don't like, because I'm in control of them, I don't like, that sounds horrible, but you know what I mean, because I control
You're in charge
their no, you're not.
Environment.
I prefer, I'm sort of very like, I'd rather have an indoor cat, because it worries me. I don't like letting them out. I mean, again, it comes from working in the vets. I see so much, my cat's been poisoned, my cat's been hit by a car, my cat's been hit by something, shot with a BB gun, and I'm just like, and then people, I hear opinions, they're like, oh, one day my cat's gonna get run over, and I'm like, well, why'd you let it out then?
It's things like that. You're like, if you know why, like, the only reason, like, I have 2 cats that are indoor and 2 cats are outdoor. My 2 outdoor cats were rescues, and they were rescued off a farm, and we physically cannot keep them indoors. That it causes them loads of stress. But we are quite lucky.
They get, anything. But
so my 2 older ones, they just don't like being indoors. Especially my like actual personal cat, Sooty. She doesn't like people. She doesn't like being indoors. She likes to go sit on the fence and watch people come in and out. She's really creepy. I think we're quite lucky because our 2 tend to sort of just stay in the garden and in the side shed. That's kind of just where they go, and then sort of Cola meets up with his little mate Smokey, and then they go down the end of the alleyway, and then they just come back like that. That's all I've never seen them anywhere else. But yeah, that's the only reason why, obviously. But I would prefer personally to have my other 2 as indoor cats, but it just wouldn't be fair on them as individuals. If I had them since they were really, really like little kittens, I probably would have kept them in more.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I think it's deferring the responsibility. It's kind of, you get this kitten and it's like, well, it would do best inside. It's best for the environment. It's best for the cat in the long run. if it's from a kitten and it's adapted to that. Whereas, you know, like I say, my 2 cats that live at my mum's, you couldn't keep them in. Well, Bonnie would literally scream the house down.
She's deaf as well. So
That's literally Cola. Cola just cries like it's going out of fashion.
And they'd get cystitis. They'd get like all kinds of stress problems. She's already got a heart murmur. I'm not like just having a heart attack on my floor because no one will let her out. You know, there's situations like that where you have to do that. But we've diverged. But yeah,
it's a cat podcast now.
The cat one.
But yeah, it's one of those things. It's the same thing really with the whole conflicting. I like to think about both sides, and that's why I live my life so confused with what's okay.
Stressed.
I'm stressed. But yeah, same thing with reptiles and breeding and all sorts. I see both sides to it, and I think it just needs to be thought about more. It shouldn't be an off the cuff, I'm going to breed. Yeah. Something that you consider and you're prepared for, I think. Same with keeping reptiles, actually. You get that a lot.
Do your research, kids.
I did research for 2 years before I got my very first reptile.
Yeah, I was getting books out the school library and all sorts when I wanted my first gecko. I was like, Dad, look, I've done all my research. I made a folder with like temperature records and weight records and like pages of information, like when and how to feed.
I did that for hamsters.
No, I did it for Rocket.
I didn't do it for a snake, actually. I'm not gonna lie. We had an animal man. I really loved it. I loved animals. I wanted a snake, and I got one for my birthday. And I'm that person that everyone hates, but I loved him. My little boy. He escaped. Oh, he escaped. We never found him again.
Oh, no.
My boy.
Abandoned.
It was horrible. But he was just, he got let out, to be fair. I had a party and when I was a kid, obviously, and like a little kid went upstairs and opened the door, and I came upstairs and he was gone. My little boy.
Well, my dad left my gecko viv open when I got my first gecko. He left the viv open after feeding him for me once, and he escaped for 8 months and then came back.
Oh, was that
Rocket?
Was that Rocket?
That's why he's so dumb.
That's why he's got no brain cells.
Yeah. And then he came back, and I was like, okay, this is fine.
Hello.
So you have Comet?
Yep.
Oh, I see.
So after like 5 months, I thought, oh God, like he's definitely gone. So I rehomed another leopard gecko because I was like, well, okay, don't let Dad touch it this time. And then my dad called me and was like, I've got a surprise for you. And I was like, oh, okay. I went over to his house, and Rocket's there in a box. And I was like, oh, well, now I've got 2. And this is how it began.
I see. And this is when you were like, having more is good.
Yeah, and then I was like, wait, 2 makes me twice as happy. I wonder what 3 would do. No.
Yes, you've got 3.
I've got 3. The third one's his, though, it's not mine.
Yeah.
What guidelines do you use to vet potential adopters?
We have guidelines. We do have,
They're flexible, but
you have to, you have to get this, you have to do this, you have to do that, whatever. But vibes play a very big part. And I'm not even ashamed, to be honest. It's if we get bad vibes. I mean, I'm not very good at being outright and saying no, because I'm terrified of like
the
bad, not bad reviews, but
the
people
feedback.
that I'm terrified that one day someone's just gonna go off and make everyone hate me. Like that's like a weird phobia I have. So I'm always like try to be very polite to say no to people, but
if we can't, we need to trust you. Like we need to trust you with our babies. We have obviously our set guidelines of this is our minimum requirements for enclosures for like welfare purposes. We need to like check your home situation, like do you have other pets, do you have kids and stuff, like how's that going to work, your experience and things. But then like overriding all of that is, do we like you, can we trust you? Because if we can't trust you to look after the animal, then you're not having it at the end of the day.
It's better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why we hold on to them for a while.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I'm not, and that's not something that I'm bothered by, really. I'd rather have them for longer and know that they're going to
and they go somewhere perfect.
A home that wants them as well is really big thing for me. Like I said before, I don't like people who ask for any corn snake, any lizard. I'm like, well, here's a list of the animals we've got. Have a read through about their personalities, about what they're like, and tell me which one you want, which one you would suit best. And they're still kind of like,
suppose.
they don't really look, and it's just like,
Yeah.
well, you know, not every snake is the same. We can't just give you a snake and expect it to be the same as the next snake. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's got to suit you. It's got to, you know, if you want it for your kid, and you,
It's like, do you
we're
want to
happy with
handle
that.
it a lot? Do you want to handle a lot? Do you want a snake just
That's
to look
gorgeous,
at?
that is out on display and likes to, you know,
Are you going to be
active.
afraid to feed it if it's a bit food aggressive or something? Because there's so many factors that people, I think when you first think about getting an animal, you're just really excited. I think that does come into play with a lot of people we get, is they message us, they're like, oh, really want to adopt a snake. And we're like, that's great, but what kind of snake? Like, specific is always better. It's a good sign when someone messages us and says, oh, I really love Betty, or I really love Dot, or
yeah,
and I'm really interested in them specifically, because you know that they've read something.
they read something. That's important. Yeah, just the willingness to, you know, people who don't want to complete forms, who don't want to look at the website, who don't want to read something that you send them. It's like, well, where's your enthusiasm?
Yeah.
Like, are you not even enthusiastic to adopt this animal? Is it just something to add to your collection? Like, I want it to be, I want you to want this animal.
We love it when people want to come and meet them.
Can I come and meet them? Can I come and see them? When can I come? Can I come right now? Can I come right now? And I'm like, yes.
Yes, you can.
Come right now. You know, we just want people who want the animals. That's the main thing. Obviously we can guide them in terms of care advice. If they've never had a reptile before and they know nothing, that's fine. You know,
we'll start from the beginning. That's fun.
We'll go through everything. You can come here, you can volunteer for a day and help us with the animals, and we can show you what each part of the enclosure means, why UVB is important, why this is important, why we have overhead heat, blah blah blah. We can go over everything. I like it when people ask loads of questions because it shows that they're willing to learn and they're willing to understand every aspect of keeping.
Yeah,
It's a vibe. It's mainly a vibe.
It's a vibe.
What I feel in my soul.
Soul vibes.
What information do you give to a potential adopter when they inquire about a reptile from you? Is it all about temperaments and stuff like that? So it's animal specific. So this one's quite feisty and.
Yeah, so we tend to give as much of the animal's background as we have.
Sometimes we have.
Sometimes we have next to nothing, so we can only give them what we have experienced with the animal. But obviously temperament's important. If it's a first reptile,
Any
it's
health
unlikely
issues?
they're going to want a feisty one.
Yeah.
So temperament, health issues, anything
they've
that
got
may reoccur.
any concerns that we've got that aren't severe concerns. Like sometimes, you know, I mean, my royal pythons eat non-stop. I've never known anything like it. Everyone's always like, royal pythons are really fussy. I'm like, are they? Mine aren't. But then we do get royal pythons in that have that fussy way of eating. Monty is a pain. He eats quite well, actually. He's eating quite well at the moment, but he does have just moments where he's like, I'm not going to eat. And, you know, that's something that we want to make people aware of, because if it's their first reptile,
they'll panic.
They're going to panic because it's not eaten. And it's, you know, we just give them as much information as we can, as much information as they ask for.
About the animal, about the care. Obviously it depends on their background. Like if they're already pretty experienced, we'll check what they already know and then be like, oh well, do you want to have a quick read of our care guide just to make sure we're like lining up priorities, to make sure obviously they don't set up an enclosure that we're not going to okay, and then they wasted that time and money. And but
and then when people adopt, they get the full, we have like a log of all of their activity while they're with us. They get full veterinary history.
They get some cards.
they get some business cards.
From like, we have sponsors who like
put their cards in.
We
kind of, I really want some like stuff to put in that people get out of it, like vouchers and things, but no one wants to donate them. No one wants to give them.
And stickers. We have stickers.
We have some stickers.
If you guys want a sticker.
Well, we actually have sticker packs that we send out to our guests, so you guys will be getting one of our sticker packs.
Yeah,
we will send you one back.
It's not very exciting.
It's one sticker.
Our stickers are this big.
That's okay. We love stickers. We do love stickers.
I want some arty ones, but they're too expensive, and as a rescue, we just can't. We can't spend money on stuff like that. It's horrible.
Yeah.
We want to.
We really want to, but we can't.
To round off the entire thing, would you recommend opening a rescue?
Yeah, because there's so many animals that need rescuing, so help us, please. Right, okay? Like, please.
Yeah, I have mixed opinions. On the one hand, yes, we need help. But on the other hand, we need help, but we need good rescues.
Yeah.
Solid rescues that are doing it for the right reasons.
It's not something that you can just do. Like when I first did it, I fostered essentially for another rescue for a while. Like I said at the start, that's how I started. And then when I spent that time researching how to start up a rescue and what I needed to do. It wasn't something I was just like, right, taking in my first animal, done. Like I'm gonna,
she is obsessed
wash them out,
with
fine.
doing everything by the book, which is amazing, but she's obsessed.
I just get, so I spoke to everyone I knew who ran rescues. I was like, what would you recommend? Why do I need to do? One person was like, register with HMRC. Absolutely, first thing you should do, because if you're taking in any kind of money, you should be registered with the taxman, because if they find out you're taking in any money, whether it's for charity purposes or not, and you're not registered even for any purpose, then you're going to get in trouble. And so you can register as a charity for tax purposes. It costs you absolutely nothing. You have to send in a governing document which is the rules of how you run your rescue or charity, and you can claim gift aid. So we claim gift aid on freely given donations, which is amazing. We have to record all our finances. We've got, a treasurer, a bank account that is separate from our personal account. So, there can be no speculation on what we spend our money on. It's all there on the bank statement. We are insured, very important. No one gets insurance. We're fully insured we've got public indemnity as well, I think, which covers us for advice that we give and all kinds of things. Make sure you just look into it. Policies and procedures. Don't just rush into it and think, I'll just wing it as I go.
Health and safety.
Yes. We have like fire safety things, it's risk assessments, everything, just
do it legally.
It's fine. You can, if you're prepared for eventualities, you're prepared. If you just go in winging it, then it's going to go wrong. You're going to realize you can't make any, you can't make money from it. People who think that they go into it because they think they can make money from it, personally, it's like, why are you doing it? If I wanted to make money from it, I couldn't. Like, it's literally like you just couldn't do it. I lose so much money doing it and not just through money, but through time, I book holiday off work so that I can do fundraising events. It's not something you can just do like that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't set up a rescue, I just joined the rescue. But
tied up all
tied
everything up.
I go behind going, this thing and this thing and this thing, and now we kind of co-run the rescue, which I'm just like, I never intended to do. But I love it. Please don't fire me.
Get out now.
But yeah, I think what Alex has said, just set up a rescue, but do it right. Like, please.
I have one last question, actually.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to anyone wanting to adopt a reptile?
Do your research.
And really think
and
about
do it
again. Take opinions from different people as well. Like, we give advice. We have care guides.
Yeah.
I actually wrote a blog post back when I did a blog, back when we had blog posts, and it was about what to do when you're adopting a new pet, when you're thinking of getting a new pet. And I based it off when I got tarantulas. And first thing was join a community.
Facebook groups are great.
The right ones are good. Yeah. The wrong ones are bad.
We know.
I've joined several
and left several.
And then leave the bad ones.
Leave the bad ones, and then back everything up. So if you read somewhere that you should be using a heat map for your corn snake, back that up. Look into why you should be using a heat map.
Multiple sources.
And then if you find out, and then when you look into it, you'll probably think, oh, maybe there are better options. I'm not saying that a heat mat is wrong. We use it in certain circumstances, but we do rehome only to overhead heat because it's, there is
the best.
It's better. Yeah. So, just don't just research don't just go to a source and research it. Like we usually say, take in 3 different care guides and read them. You're going to find so many different things about them. That's when you go to the community that you joined and you ask
questions
like, why is this guide saying heat mats and this guide is saying overhead heat? What's the difference? And then you're going to find actually find a scientific reason. Shout out to my friends because they are incredible. Ollie, Brett, Shannon, you, Rami, everyone. Woo! And they're like I couldn't
like
exist.
An encyclopedia.
Yeah, you just if we have a question, it's like
somebody's got different expertise.
Someone knows, so you go to them and it's like, well, why remind me again, why is halogen better than ceramic heat? And it's like, well, because the IRC, and you just get,
I'm like, Ollie, tell me about UVB, go.
It's great. You just find the right people,
and be specific. Like, if you're not sure what species you're interested in, do that first, and then research that specific species in multiple sources, so that you're not getting information for a different species that you're going to end up adopting, because otherwise you're just going to be confused. So try and pin that point, and then specific research, multiple sources, ask questions, and then approach your rescue and adopt.
So that concludes this week's podcast. A massive thank you to Jelly Exotics who joined us. We have learned a great deal and we appreciate you taking time out to join us. We would also like to shout out and thank our sponsor, Amphibipod, who can cater to any reptile needs with his fantastic 3D printed reptile accessories. They range from feeding ledges to hides and everything in between. Thank you to all of our listeners. We hope you enjoyed this week's podcast and we shall see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.